All right, let's get this video going. I've got everything set up. We've got the Cintiq and a MacBook, just a little camera. Nothing a little scotch tape won't fix. And then it's time to show you what I've been up to these past couple of months, coloring my pen and ink drawings for Fosphor, my little science fiction adventure comic book. As you can see here, this is the first draft in colors, and I've been making plenty of progress, getting a little better at coloring from Photoshop and taking it into Procreate. In case this is your first time watching one of these videos on my channel, my name is Jan. I live in Manila, the Philippines, and well, this is what it used to look like before the pandemic. Things have quieted down as it's been a full lockdown, and we've just celebrated, if you can do such a thing, the 1-year anniversary of being in a full lockdown. So no more traveling, no more little trips to beautiful little places, one of the many islands, such as this one right here. Or one of our favorites, Coron in Palawan, which is to be one of the most beautiful places we visited. Maybe I'll show you a little bit more at the end of this video. For now, let's get started with the art. So the last video I uploaded was actually an earlier attempt to make this video, and it was just the black and white art. So here you see the colored pages. And what I've done, since the 4K upload didn't quite work, is I'm showing you the digital colors side by side from 6 months ago, not a year ago, 6 months ago. And the new colors and the tweaked colors and the files from Procreate separate afterwards. So this is a Procreate file. So the colors are a lot less washed out from the taking a video from the actual screen. And I think, like most people who attempt to color, I went for a heavy saturated look because it just, it's initially, that's the thing I think that for most beginning colorists that looks good, or artists I should say. You tend to go for the primary colors. It takes a while to get to feel a bit more comfortable with more muted colors. One of the other attempts at a video or a stream I did with Marsh Makes Comics a couple of months ago. He had a look at these pages and he advised me to look into the limited palettes they use or choose when directing movies, and there's like whole studies about this and things you can read about on the internet. I found that very helpful. What I did was, because I was initially inclined to go for colors too bold, too saturated, and I wanted to color everything as it would be under natural light. I then decided to, for each page, I think with the exception of this one, but for each page to kind of go for a feel and to pick particular colors to each group of people on the ship and as part of the story, and to go for an emotion, if you will, and then use a very limited palette and take it from there. So here you can see how I build up this page in particular, laying down the flats. I'm even experimenting on this page a little bit with halftones, just for the hell of it. I think it looks pretty cool. I did try and rein myself in and not go too crazy with the halftones after this page, so it wouldn't become the new lens flare or soft focus, as I've fallen prey to in the anthology for the V100 that we made in the last couple of years. So if you're unfamiliar with the story, if this is the first episode you're watching, it is a science fiction story of a scavenger crew who come across some mysterious artifacts. For example, this skull. This is the lecture where the guy in charge gives them a lecture about, you know, a little bit of exposition about the history of the place they're in. This is a page I'm very fond of because the saturated look actually felt completely appropriate since they're standing close to a furnace. I got to keep the heavy saturated foreground, middle ground, and background colors. It was with the other pages that deciding what was actually going on in the scene, I tended to mute it down a little bit. Here in Procreate, I've been putting the pages in the new chronological order. I guess one of the downsides of taking a long time finishing a story is that you have plenty of time to change your mind about what the story should be like, maybe experiment a little bit here and there with the order of the pages, adding new plot lines, subtracting plot lines. This page right here is the first splash page I drew for the comic. Very happy with it. It was a little tricky coloring, so I actually colored it in Photoshop as one giant file. Unfortunately, on the iPad Air I've got, Procreate can't handle it, or the iPad can't handle it. So I had to cut it up into two and then get rid of all the extra layers and just flatten everything, so I'd be left with nothing more but the line art, and like here, one painted page for the colors, one painted layer for the colors. On this page, the supervisors or overseers who've been called in to make a report on the ship are coming to some conclusions based on their research. Very happy with this page, even though it's the kind of lighting that in real life I don't think anyone would want to sit in a room like that. It just, you know, looks pretty cool. Same right here with the managers meeting, having a giant screen that lights up the whole scene in an old school green, as if in the future or a science fiction place they wouldn't have proper lighting in proper scenes. Just looks better. Same for this scene right here. Every scene that is outside with these two characters is in purple. It's supposed to be very misty and mysterious. This used to be the only action scene in the chapter. Since then, I've added more pages at the start of the comic, expanding the story, feeling that it would just make everything that I had up until that point come together a little bit better by providing a different starting point to the tale. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later when I show you how I make some of those pages. All the new pages have all been done digitally, just for the sake of time, seeing if I could work a little bit faster that way. And I have about 12 new pages now, like this one, like these two right here. All these pages have yet to be colored. These pages will all be colored in Procreate, so I hope it will not look too different from the pages I already have. I don't think so. I think it should be fine. But I am pretty happy with how they came out.
I'll have to try and speak up so you can actually hear what I'm saying. So
we are in Makati. This is a financial district. And we are going to grab some lunch at one of the many shopping malls. So this is my process for making the new pages. I've got 12, like I said earlier. Usually I just work things out on paper, you know, rough sketches, and then I take a picture of the sketch, put it into Photoshop or now Procreate, and then just add a layer on top, just expand on the art. Since tends to be very rough, and then see if I can just figure out the lighting, because once I have the lighting down, then I can get down to all the heavy blacks, and then once I have those down, I can work on the actual line art. Usually I get ideas for dialogue as well that I put on a separate piece of paper, like you can see here on the left, and that's kind of how I come about my new pages. So one of the downsides of taking an awful long time making a comic book is, of course, that you can have second thoughts, you come up with new ideas, and one of the things I found is that the starting point of my comic book, even though it's cool and I still like it, I just found that I end up creating an awful lot of dialogue for the comic book that I had in order to explain and slowly reveal what the story was about. To the point that I thought, you know, maybe it would be just better to have the starting point of the story a little earlier, so that I wouldn't have to write all this stuff down. I could just show it. And I also felt like there's this thing with science fiction where there's so much new stuff and world building you have to do to explain the world that you're in. I felt like it'd be better to get to the point as quickly as possible, like in the first opening pages, rather than start off with a regular day and slowly reveal what was going on or what happened before that day. So the main struggle is between who's in charge on the ship or who's going to be in charge of the ship. And the main problem is for the captain, because he got himself into so much trouble. And so the actual how he got himself in trouble is to be left, is to be revealed, like peeled back slowly, one thing at a time. But him being in actual trouble, I wanted to show rather than have to explain. So now the story starts off with him being in jail, like he's in real dire straits, and he gets a second chance, and you see him being given that second chance, and how much it means to him. And then we cut to where the story begins that I had. One of the troubles I always have working digitally is that I'm never quite sure about the resolution, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner, but on the iPad, maybe it's because I was reading comics on the iPad, but I got the idea to just take a screenshot of a couple of comics and then import them as layers for working on comics. So now I have like a reference layer from an actual comic book. And what I found was that a lot of comics actually also have very different resolution, like line thickness. And this could be, you know, it could be style, but comparable comics, even there are some comics like I was reading Wildcats with Travis Charest, and like some of his line work is so thin that it would almost be hard to draw unless you actually zoom in. But I'm hoping that for when I'm going to do the lettering, this could really pay off, so I can get the size of the letters correctly a lot easier this way, just by having a reference layer underneath from actual comics.